Good evening. Welcome to the Truckee Unified School District. We are 3 minutes late, and we totally apologize. The board did meet in close. Okay, welcome to the board meeting of June 25th. Apologize. We did meet in closed session as a board with no reportable action. At this point, we will have Stephanie Bacon, because I have your yellow card right here, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I do have a lot of practice.
Yes.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done. Thank you. Pat, you're next, but she was first. At this point, Superintendent Kramer, are there any changes to the presented agenda?
Yes, President Driller, we'd like to make one change. 1410 is currently in the consent agenda, and we would like to move that to personnel and make it 16.2. We'd like to speak about that a little bit.
Okay, thank you very much. Board, do you have any other changes that you see, or staff? Seeing none, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted adjustments?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, who seconded?
Aye.
Thank goodness, aye. And then, thank you. So we're all set on that. Moving to 7.0, we have two comments, but one will be on 10.2. And Stephanie Bacon, you will please come to the dais and share with us your comments.
All right, before I'm walking up, my 3 minutes can't start yet. I just want to say, it's been a busy week. I need to use my phone. I didn't write it down. I just typed it up like a few minutes ago. And I'll be back to talk about something more close to my heart, but this is another topic. Okay? How are we doing? All righty, perfect. I'm watching the clock. I'm Dr. Stephanie Bacon. I teach 6th grade at North Tahoe Middle School. And I first just want to thank everybody on the board and our administrators here tonight, because all the service you do in all these meetings is no small ask. I'm here today because TTA did a really thoughtful survey, and they also did a call to action asking for teachers to come and talk about the cost of living in our area. So I'm going to tell you a little story about that. I'm a legacy employee. I went to Truckee Elementary and Sierra Mountain Middle School and Truckee High. And with respect to salary and cost of living, I've been at the highest column on the salary schedule since 2005, bachelor's plus 90. And I'm currently at the highest step and column on the salary schedule, and I receive a stipend for my master's and my doctorate degrees. I just sold my modest home. I completed the move yesterday. It was 1,300 square feet. I called it the casita because I was living paycheck to paycheck. I'm currently living in an RV at Prosser. The views are great. You might think that I had a big mortgage. I did not. I put 85% down on my house. You might think that I'm paying for my 2 sons to attend fancy colleges. I'm not. Their father and I started at $529 when they were babies. That's all they get. I don't send them a dime per month. You might think I take fancy vacations or drive a fancy car. I don't. I do have 2 used vehicles. Truckee has just gotten really expensive. I had to have 2 insurance policies to keep my house. There were significant rate increases that did impact my cost of living because my house is not very well insulated. It was built in 1983. I needed new snow tires this year, and I do pay for snow removal to save my back. The last time I bought cream cheese at the Truckee Safeway, it was $8. This is a complex problem and one that TTUSD cannot fix alone. I'm just here to provide my story, provide some information, and give a gentle reminder of the very important work that we do here. I'm a doctor. I'm a different kind of brain surgeon. My colleagues are too. We are responsible for the delicate and important work of empowering our students with the skills they need to thrive. And when too much of our bandwidth is taken by just figuring out how to pay the bills or make them lower or make an extra income, it impacts our performance in the classroom. As I said, the problem is complex, and TTUSD is only part of the solution. For now, I'm simply going to ask that you give us whatever you can on the salary schedule, maybe open up your parking lots for people like me, and perhaps work with the Truckee PD and Sheriff's Department. For those of us that commute to Tahoe City, it's really hard to get to work on time on a powder day. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. The other public comments that I have received are now, they are related to an item in our budget, or sorry, in our agenda, so we will address those at that time. 8.0, Superintendent Kramer.
For this item, we are turning to our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Mrs. Sean Roderick.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Kramer, President Driller, members of the Board of Trustees, and community members. This evening, I present to you for approval the 2025-2026 Local Control and Accountability Plan, also referred to as the LCAP. California Education Code 52060 mandates that by July 1, 2014, and annually thereafter, school districts and county offices of education must develop a local control and accountability plan. This plan must align with their annual budget and identify the specific actions that will take to meet state priorities. These priorities pertain to teacher qualifications, the implementation of the California Common Core state standards, parental involvement, student achievement, student engagement, school climate, student access to a broad course of study, and student outcomes in those courses. LCAP goals and actions support these 8 state priorities, as well as the 7 areas identified in the TTUSD Strategic Plan Pathway 2020. The LCAP Federal Addendum, which supplements the LCAP, ensures the eligible local education agencies have the opportunity to meet the LEA plan provisions of the Every Student Succeeds Act. Additionally, the local performance indicator self-reflection is included to demonstrate the district's progress in meeting the requirements of the specific LCFF priorities. We request that Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Education authorize staff to make necessary technical corrections to obtain approval of the LCAP by the county superintendent of schools that do not change the intent or represent a substantial change to the program content. The staff recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the 2025-2026 Local Control and Accountability Plan.
Thank you for that. Comments or questions from the board?
Only that I read it, and every year I read it, there's so much information in there and how we distribute our funds for different goals, so it's pretty complicated, but I do appreciate that we get to look at it every year.
That, no? I will share that I might have said to Chris as we were reading, there's a lot of reading, but it's a lot of work from each site. So every site does put out that whole package of information, and I think Lupita said it was 170 some odd pages if we did it on the paper, or is that the right one? But it does make sense that there is so much information in that, and it's one of those things that we are lucky that we have all that funding to use. So any public comment on the item? This is an action item, so would there be a motion on the table to approve the local control and accountability plan for 25-26?
I'll make a motion to approve the local control and accountability plan with the technical corrections for 25-26.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 8.2, Superintendent Kramer.
Mrs. Roderick.
Thank you. I'm pleased to present the 2025-2026 school plans for student achievement, also known as the SPSAs, for your review and consideration tonight. This evening, I will share the factors that shape the development of these plans. I would like to emphasize the strong collaboration and dedication of our site leaders and the educational service team, whose collective efforts have been instrumental in writing these comprehensive plans. These SPSAs are aligned with the LCAP and the TTUSD strategic plan. Our school principals led a collaborative process with their staff, site councils, and ELAC community to review the plans, taking into account the preliminary 2025 CAS assessment achievement results. Because these SPSAs are redesigned to align with the LCAP and the TTUSD strategic plans, goals and strategies have been redeveloped to meet the needs of students and to support continuous academic growth and development. Each school site analyzed the success of its planned actions to date and made adjustments based on current results and feedback from our educational partners. Our plans are designed to be flexible and responsive, allowing our school teams to continually adapt their strategies to meet the evolving needs of our students. Staff would like to acknowledge the significant achievements at each school site. Our teachers, site leaders, students, and families are working together with dedication and commitment to ensure TTUSD scholars are learning at the highest levels possible. The staff recommends the Board of Trustees approve the 2025-2026 school plans for student achievement.
Thank you for that. I apologize. I had to get onto my tablet to get to my phone to get to here, so I couldn't get on, so I apologize. I was getting my code. Are there any board comments on the continuation of the accountability?
I'll just say, so I read through them all, and every year I read them, and I find, there's successes and there's challenges that are ongoing. And I know it's hard, we're basing it off testing, and I do appreciate that we have everyone working together, in our students' best interest. I think it sometimes just highlights, though, that we have more work to do. Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. It just seems like math is our Achilles heel, and I know that we are working with new curriculum at all grade levels, is that right? Pretty much new curriculum at all grade levels. But I find it discouraging because I've been on this board for almost, I don't know, Lupita, 2017, am I right? And it's always the thing. So I'm hopeful that at some point I'll get these and be like, oh, the 5% were met. And in some cases, that would barely put us at 50%. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. I understand, that we are, like you said, these are based on testing and not everyone tests well, or you don't know what's happening on the morning of. It's just that dang math, man. But I appreciate all the work that goes into these, and I'm thankful. I do remember at some point a couple years back in the reports, there were areas, and I don't know if the report itself has changed, the template, or if we've made a shift and only talk about academics. But I remember hearing needs such as, we're using a closet as an office. And I know that we've moved on from a lot of that because of all of our great facilities work, but I wonder if there are needs that the schools have that aren't being brought forth just because of this process, but maybe the needs or someone on the executive cabinet knows the need. But I kind of liked having that personal, we need this, it just, I don't know. But I'm not saying let's revise or revamp, but I did notice, the last couple of years, it's been very just academic driven, and I guess that's the purpose, so. Yeah, but thank you to all the schools for all the hard work that goes into putting these together. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. With that, is there any public comment? Seeing none. Bringing it back, it is an action item. Would there be a motion on the table to approve 8.2?
I'll make a motion to approve, let me get the verbiage, to approve the school plans for student accountability.
And thank you, Pat. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving to 9.0, Business Services, Superintendent Kramer.
I was wondering if we have a guest here that we wanted to honor, if we could do that. I know it's going to be a little bit out of order, but he is a member of the Business Services team. So, Lupita, if you don't mind bringing up my superintendent's update to that second slide. And let me get to the right spot.
Wow.
So tonight, we have the pleasure of celebrating a remarkable TTUSD employee and his dedicated career. I'd like to invite Pat McKechnie and Mr. Dow I still don't know how to say your name right, Higginbotham, to the podium.
Thanks for having us. Dow Higginbotham started with the district in 1987 as a night custodian at Truckee High School. In 1988, he was promoted to head custodian. In his time as head custodian, he participated in the school play, chaperoned senior trips, and started 35 years of coaching Truckee High football. In 2002, Dow moved to the maintenance department as our equipment operator. In his time as our equipment operator, Dow has been the one to get up in the middle of the night to monitor our snowfall to gauge when our snow removal crews should come in and get our schools ready. He plows snow in the middle of the night and on weekends. He cuts the grass on our athletic fields in the middle of hot summer days. He's done anything else we've needed him to do, from delivering food to our kitchens to setting up stages for graduation. And he knows our facilities like the back of his hand. And while we would never let it show up in our work, Dow and I have two things in common: a love for red and a distaste for all things blue. In all seriousness, Dow genuinely cares not only about his work, but he cares about the kids in our small community. For over 38 years, Dow has been one of the bedrocks that the maintenance department and the district have leaned on to make sure our schools have been safe and operational for our students and staff. Dow, thank you very much for everything that you have given for our schools and to our town. Congratulations.
So you did come and speak. There you go.
I did. Which one was better?
A little sibling couple. Always.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. That's so fun. Moving to you, 9.0. Thank you, Superintendent Kramer.
Yes, and for these items, we're going to turn to our Assistant Superintendent, Chief Business Officer, Mr. Todd Rivera.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Kramer, President Driller, members of the board. So the first item, do you want me to go through all three, or are you going to announce each item? Okay. So 9.1, we're asking the board to approve agreement 25-00-29M with Elements Mountain Company for a TTUSD 2025 Defensible Space Project. And as part of this project, Elements will be clearing all of the shrubs and brush and doing forest thinning in a 100-foot radius around several of our campuses, which includes the district office, Sierra High School, Sierra Expeditionary Learning School, Truckee Elementary, Truckee High School, Alder Creek, Glenshire, Kings Beach, and Tahoe Lake Elementary. And then we have several sites that we will hit next summer doing a very similar project. The total amount of this agreement is $110,000, and that'll be coming from maintenance funds.
Thank you for that. So well timed for that purpose. Are there any board comments on this item? Any public comment? I will say, Todd, that I can't be more excited about the fact that we are doing that around our schools. And I'm psyched that we have that money available in our maintenance. So that's good. This is an action item. I'm going to make a motion to approve Agreement 25.0 or -00-29M with Elements Mountain Company.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. And 9.2, Superintendent Kramer.
Mr. Rivera?
Thank you. So I'm pleased to announce that the district received another grant related to the Farm to School program through the USDA. This is not the first time we received it. This particular program is called the Sprout to Spoon program, and it will help us procure locally grown organic produce, meats, and grains through developing and nurturing new relationships with small to mid-sized California food producers. So about half of this grant can be actually used to purchase those food products, and then the other half is used to build these partnerships, but also provide education for our students. And that includes visits to local farms, as well as having local farmers and growers come to the school to educate children on agriculture. And the total amount is $200,000.
These are all fun ones. Thank you for these. We can let you go home after this. That is, any other comments from the board on this item? Any public comment? Again, love the fact that it's a grant and it's farm to school. Couldn't be more excited. Would there be a motion for 9.2?
We'll move to approve the agreement with the California Farm to School Incubator Grant Program.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Fiscal Services C, Superintendent Kramer.
And for this, we will have Mr. Rivera do a presentation on the proposed budget.
Thank you very much. So tonight, I'm pleased to present the proposed budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. And first off, I'd just like to thank our fiscal staff, particularly Angie Morales-White and J.R. Murphy, who did the bulk of the work on this budget development. So looking at our, just recapping our budget reporting process, we held our public hearing for the 25-26 budget on June 11th, and then tonight we're asking the board to adopt it. In the meantime, we are working on closing the books for the 2024-25 fiscal year. That's underway right now, working with auditors, and through the summer we'll be closing down on 24-25. And then, of course, we'll be presenting the unaudited actuals in September, and then that'll be followed by our final audit and our first interim report in December. So when I'm talking about the 25-26 budget, also included in that process is what we call our estimated actuals, and this is included in the budget document. And essentially, this is our last budget revision that we do for the 24-25 fiscal year. So these are any changes that have occurred since the second interim report, which we presented in March. And just looking at those changes in comparison to our second interim report, our thinking will end the year with revenues of $100,257,708. And that is a variance from second interim, positive of about $898,000. And what's attributed to that change is we had slight increases in our property taxes. We also saw a pretty big insurance settlement for claims for winter damage from the 22-23 winter in the amount of $400,000, and that has been ongoing for the last couple years. We're still waiting on some additional claim settlements on that as well. We also have our unspent title programs. That includes Title I, Title II, Title III, where with federal programs, if you don't actually spend the money, then you can't recognize the revenue. So this is just an adjustment for that. That 191,000 will move forward into the 25-26 year. So it's not really a decrease or a loss for us. We saw some slight increases to our RDA pass-through funding. And then we received a nice surprise, a workers' compensation program dividend check for about $269,000. We don't expect to see that on an ongoing basis. And then we saw some slight increases to our STRS on behalf contribution. And as a reminder, what that is the state contributes 5% towards our certificated retirement program, STRS, but they make the districts actually recognize our share of that on the books. So essentially what this equates to is we have an estimated amount of STRS on behalf contribution that we have to recognize. We recognize it as an expense, and then we offset it with a revenue. So it's kind of a dummy accounting entry, essentially, but it does count on our overall expenditures. And then we did see a small increase to our special education funding of $54,000, and then we are continuing to see some pretty good returns on our cash with our interest earnings, so we increased that by another $104,000. So looking at the expense side, so we feel our expenditures will end at just a little under $102,600,000. At second interim, we had estimated at $103,667,000. So that's a decrease of about $1.1 million. Some of the things that attributed to that is we did have some additional vacancy savings that we realized for some of the classified vacancies, such as our special ed IAs and our bus drivers. And then in turn, because of those savings, we realized additional payroll liability and benefit savings as well. And then on the materials and supplies side, we saw a pretty large reduction in that category of about $925,000. This isn't necessarily money that we lost or didn't spend. It's money that sometimes is earmarked in a certain category. The sites don't spend it, and we carry it over to the next year. A big portion of that is carryover for things like our donations, our title programs. In our maintenance funds, we didn't spend that all. We'll carry it to the next year as well. And then we did finally get a better handle on our utilities, so we did have an increase on the utilities of about $280,000. Most of that's in the electric area, but we did have some increases to our sewer and water charges as well. We saw a slight decrease in our snow removal from what was originally anticipated. And then on the capital outlay side, we had an increase due to some E-rate projects that we did this past year in 24-25. It was a cabling project. And then also our kitchen infrastructure grants, which was one-time funding from the state. We're doing renovation of the Donner Trail kitchen over there. So that's an increase that we added towards the end of the year, and then that won't continue on until next fiscal year. So looking at the state budget, so this year was a little bit more conservative on the governor's behalf than normal. He released his May revision on May 14th. And he had reduced revenue projections from what we've seen in the past. And essentially that led to our belief that we'll see a slower economy in the next few fiscal years, a downgrade in the overall state economy and federal economy. And that's being attributed to mostly a federal policy and potential tariffs out there. So we did have revenue reductions in the 25-26 proposed budget, or may revise. There is a deficit at the state budget level. However, it's not really touching TK-12 school districts. They've kind of committed to keeping them whole, or keeping us whole rather. But there are some budget reductions outside of TK-12. So there is always going to be some strategies that they incorporate into the budget, such as deferrals. That is included in the May revision, and what that is delaying payment to school districts at the end of the year for what their apportionment should be, and not paying them until July of the next fiscal year. And that's just kind of a shell game the state plays so that those expenditures don't show up on their 25-26 budget. They're going to show up on the 26-27. They did propose a 2.3% COLA for the LCFF and other programs. We do not, as a basic aid district, see that COLA except for in some of those ancillary programs such as local special education funding. But overall, there's no major program reductions for K-12. And as I speak, yesterday, there's a process to the state budget. The governor proposes as may revise, and then both sides of the House on the legislator side propose their own budget. And then they have to come to an agreement on an overall final budget. So that occurred yesterday, so there is a final agreement. So some of those questions that I included in my narrative as far as unknowns, now we have some light shed on those. I was going to share those with you, things that actually impact the district. He is still proposing, of course, his deferrals. He's still, the final budget also includes pretty much a spend down of the public school system stabilization account and Proposition 98 reserve. So that was the funding they set aside for bad economic times. They're going to withdraw that entire thing in order to make this budget whole this year. Some of the good things, however, one of the big question marks was one-time funding, and there was a proposal for what they call the Student Support and Discretionary Block Grant. The governor was proposing $1.7 billion for that. For us, that would mean about $1.5 million roughly. The legislator originally was proposing to reduce that to about $500 million, but they agreed to fund the entire amount. I don't know if there's going to be different requirements or criteria set alongside it, but as it was proposed, it was pretty flexible money to spend as we needed. There's also going to be a partial restoration of the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, and that's a grant that we've been using over the last several years. 25-26 was the last year to spend it. Well, actually, technically 26-27 was, but they allocated an additional amount to distribute to districts in 25-26. So we probably will see some money from that as well. And then some additional funds for kitchen infrastructure and training. They're kind of consolidating that into what they're calling a one-time funding to establish universal school meals implementation support grant, which I'm not sure how they're going to allocate that or how they're going to distribute that, but we'll find out shortly. And then there's some smaller allocations for literacy instruction, professional development, and then also literacy and math coaches. So we'll look more into that and get more information as the budget trailer bills are passed. So looking at 2025 and 26, we always start with our assumptions, what we know at this time with the best information available. So on our property tax side, talking with the assessors in the months of May and June, we got some numbers from them. So we felt pretty comfortable estimating our property tax increases at about 4.89%. Now that always changes. They continue to work on the roll through July. So usually we don't know what that final number is until the end of July. Normally we see a little bit of an uptick, and that's what I'm hopeful for once we get those final rolls. But that amount of an increase is about $3.5 million for the district. Our Measure AA revenue kind of remains static at $5.66 million, and just as a reminder, the district does contribute about $1.63 million of general fund just to make that program whole. Washoe County tuition, that's gone down over the years. At one time, we had as many as 90 Washoe County students. Now we have more like 63, 64. So we've gone down in funding from that from about $725,000 to $525,000. We also have some temporary grants, 2-year grants for tobacco use prevention education and also the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which is kind of creating an expansion of different billable medical services that we can bill towards Medi-Cal and other sources. So we're working on expanding our capabilities there, and that grant is particularly to build our capacity in order to do that. And then we continue to contribute to our deferred maintenance and COP debt service. Now, federal funding, that's been a big question for everybody. I did include pretty flat federal funding for this year. There's just so many unknowns right now. We don't know how things are going to shake out. So we'll have to just keep monitoring that. And once final proposals are approved, then we'll have better information. But for right now, we're keeping it. We reduced it a little bit in some of our title programs, but we're keeping it as if we're going to receive that this year. In lieu property tax, that's the transfers that we make to charter schools, particularly CELS. That's about $2.33 million that comes from our revenue and is paid directly to the charter. And then arts and music in schools funding of about $518,000. In our transportation reimbursement, we expect that is going to go up by about $200,000 this year to $1.39 million. So on the expenditure side, always we have step and column movement on the schedule when employees move to the next step or based on education credits move to the next column. So that value of that is about 1.89% for certificated staff and about 2.46%. And that's a percentage of the current salary base. That's an increase for us. So just in numbers for certificated staff, and that includes also certificated management, the cost of that is about $650,000. And for classified staff, including classified management, it's about $405,000. So that's just a natural increase that we expect. Our STRS employer contribution rates are holding steady at 19.1%. We haven't heard that there's going to be any increases anytime soon, so hopefully that'll stay the same. Our PERS contribution rates actually reduced a little bit to 26.81 by a micro percentage from prior year. However, it is anticipated to continue to increase in out years. And then our workers' compensation did see a slight uptick, not a huge financial impact at that amount. We are expecting to do our Chromebook replacement as we usually do every year, $270,000. And one of the big expenditure changes for 25-26 is we had a lot of staff that was temporarily being funded by the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant and also SB HIP, which was to get our wellness centers going. So the plan always was to move that staffing back into the unrestricted general fund in the current, in 25-26 year. And then we are still continuing to fund some of our wellness staff in the 25-26 year with using Medi-Cal funds and some other sources. But the bulk of that, about $2 million, is coming back from these temporary funds. And then, of course, all the vacancy savings that we realized in 24-25, we now have to assume those are going to be fully staffed, so all of those savings get pulled back into the budget. So the federal question. So this chart is based on the current information I could locate or find. So there is a presidential federal funding proposal that's out there right now. If you look at the list, these are all the programs that we are currently funded at the federal level. If you see nothing in the box that says potential reduction cut, then we've received information that tells us they're supposed to be keeping those at the current funding levels. So that includes our Title I, so that should be fully funded. The IDA, Basic Local Entitlement, which was our main special education funding, they're also leaving that alone. And then when it comes down to some of the smaller special ed programs, the IDA preschool, IDA mental health, what they're proposing there is to consolidate several of those smaller programs and then throw it in the main bucket, the IDA Basic Local Entitlement. And how that works is the feds will send the award amounts to the state, and then the state makes the determination on how those are divided and allocated to the local SELPAs, which is our special education local plan areas. And then from there, it gets distributed to the district. So if it works as it is now, it most likely will not result in a large reduction in funding. Looking into our TPP program, our Transitions Partnership Program, that has not been included in any proposals that I could find at this time, so we expect that'll be fully funded, as well as our Carl Perkins grant, which we expect to receive as well. Now it gets a little bit more complicated. So looking at our Title II program, our Title IV program, which is for student support, academic achievement. Title II is for professional development of staff. And then lastly, we have homeless children and youth, which we don't expect any funding this year anyway, but we've received in the past. But President Trump has about 18 different federal programs that he's planning on consolidating into one block grant. And in the process of doing that, the funding for all those programs is about $6.5 billion. He wants to reduce it to a total of $2 billion. So that's part of his overall reduction to the education department. So when it comes to those funding pieces for us, we don't know yet. We don't know if that proposal will get approved at this point, but we also don't know what the allocation or what the criteria for being eligible for that block grant will be. So that's kind of a wait and see for us. Moving on to Title III. That has probably been one of the biggest talks as far as elimination. And at first, what we had heard was they were focusing more on, there's two different Title III programs that we receive. One is for English learning. The other is for immigrant student program, which is helping support those students that are new to the country. And at first, we were thinking it was just going to be the immigrant student program, which you see we have a pretty small amount of funding level with that anyway. But now it looks like it's expanded possibly into the English learner side. So those are potential that we might just lose. So new budget items, we did add positions. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into some of the detail here, but we added 5.1 overall certificated positions, about 1.3 classified. A lot of that was really offset with some of the attrition savings that we got from retirees. And then also there were a couple positions that we had from retirees that we didn't need to backfill, so there was some savings there. So looking at our overall revenues, you'll see we are planning on receiving about just under $103 million. The changes there are in comparing that to our estimated actuals. That's kind of our last best guess from 24-25. So when you look at the property taxes and state aid, we're going to increase there by about $3.5 million, and most of that is attributed to our increased property tax estimates that I shared earlier. On the federal side, we're expected to go up by about $52,000. That's obviously under the assumption that we're going to continue to be funded in all those programs. We did have carryover in Title I that amounted to a positive $157,000. That's money that we're bringing from 24-25 to 25-26. And then we had some offsets to that in Title II and also some special education funding where we had carryover in 24-25, so we had kind of a higher amount in 24-25, but that's being spent down. So now we're just looking at pretty much what the annual award for 25-26 is for that. On the state level, we're expecting increases of just under $450,000. $186,000 of that is part of the increase to our STRS on behalf contribution. So again, not a real revenue. And then we have an increase to our transportation reimbursement of about $215,000. And then we had some carryover from our CTIG, Career Technical Education Incentive Grant. And that funding works similar to federal, where if you don't spend it that year, then you can't recognize the revenue. So this is money that's just been held in the bank from prior years that we're going to be spending next year. On the local side, looks like a pretty significant decrease, 2.4 million nearly. A big portion of that is we don't book our donations. We book a small amount just to recognize that we will receive donations, but we do not book all that we received in the prior year because we don't know how much we're going to get. So we book that as we receive it. So about $308,000 of donations we received in 24-25 that we didn't move to the 25-26 budget is included in that. I did a slight reduction to interest earnings of $54,000. And then I talked about the insurance claim money that we got and also the workers' comp dividend. So that was a total of $669,000 that we received in 24-25 that we don't expect to receive in the next budget year. And then a big one was we received a lot of air pollution control grants to purchase buses last year. Again, those are things that we kind of book as we know we're getting them. So that was a reduction of $823,000. So this is just a graph showing where our revenues come from. As you can see, primary revenue for us is property taxes at 76%, followed by local. Our local grants are Measure A parcel tax in those different categories, donations. And then our federal funds is a fairly small portion of our overall budget. Moving on to expenses. Total of expenses of $103,447,177. Looking at the different categories here briefly, I include a lot of information in our narrative. I'll try to summarize as best I can. Certificated salaries, we're seeing an overall increase from estimated actuals of just under $226,000. We did add about $500,000 in new positions, which included an additional TK teacher, 1.7 elementary school teachers, 1.4 additions to our EL programs, and then a 1.0 special day class teacher. And then we had attrition savings from retirements and positions not backfilled of about $431,000. And then we had a reduction, we pulled back on our sub cost. And a big piece of that is we currently pay sub rates for our special education IAs when we can't fill them for one-on-ones. So our sub costs on our special ed program are kind of inflated high because we don't have those positions filled. But when we, pull all those positions to a new budget, we assume they'll be filled so that we won't have that large expense as sub cost. But that is something that's a moving target sub cost for all of our programs, changes from year to year. And then on the classified salaries, an increase of almost 1.1 million. Again, we had step and column increases of $406,000. We saw some decrease in staffing in some different areas where positions were closed of $196,000. And then we added all that vacancy savings back, and that was, nearly $1 million, about $860,000. Looking at benefits, that increase of 1.4 is really attributed to the increases in salaries that we're seeing as a result, because that includes not only payroll liabilities, but also the health and welfare benefits budgeted at full value. On books and supplies, we're expecting an increase of just under $700,000. Some of this, like I mentioned before, actually a big portion of this is carryover from the prior year, monies that weren't spent for donations for Title I, where we earmark them maybe in the materials and supplies category, but they'll probably move throughout the year and be reclassified as needed. We also have earmarked $250,000 for staff computer replacement this year, so that's a new added cost. On the professional services side, we're looking at a decrease of $1.2 million. And part of that is we are expecting some reductions in utilities and some of the contracted services that we had in 24-25 that won't carry forward to 25-26. Also, a large item there in that reduction is we've pulled back on our charter bus athletic transportation, because again, a big part of that is because we're not fully staffed in transportation. So when we adopt a new budget, we assume full staffing, which would reduce the need for charter buses. And then we had some decreases to instructional licenses as well, and offset, of course, by increases and decreases in a lot of different categories. On the capital outlay side, we're seeing a reduction of 1.5 million nearly. 1 million of that is just the bus replacements that we did last year. And we expect next year that we'll only have about 1 or 2. So, any questions at all on expenditures? I know it's a lot of information. There's more detail in the narrative if anyone's interested.
I was just gonna say, your narrative is awesome. Like, that makes it so much easier. So that's why there's no questions.
Right. So looking at our expenditure summary here, as we talk about often, 83% of our budget is salaries and benefits. So it doesn't leave a lot for other stuff. Capital outlay is a fairly small percentage, and then the other largest category is probably our services and operating expenditures. Looking at our expenditures by function, about 67% of our overall budget is for direct classroom instruction or instruction-related services. And then one of my favorite subjects, Measure AA. So we just want to highlight what Measure AA contributes to our budget on an annual basis. So looking at the elementary school level, staffing is a huge piece of it. 9.5 FTE, or teachers for extracurricular subjects in enrichment, 2.5 science enrichment teachers, a 0.7 librarian overall at the elementary level, and 3.8 counselors. So the total of the cost of staffing is just under $2.5 million. And then we provide supplies for different categories within Measure A for extracurricular activities, including field trips, visual and performing arts, PE equipment, basic instructional materials, technology, emotional and social learning. So looking at the total allocated to all of our elementary schools is just a little bit over $2.8 million. And then at the middle high school areas, similar with staffing, 1.0 is allocated to keep class sizes small within our middle and high schools. 16.5 academic enhancement teachers, and that can be used for a variety of different subjects that are offered at the middle and high school level. 2.6 librarians and 1.4 counselors are funded by Measure AA. So the total staffing is just under $3.2 million. And then again, all these different categories: music, equipment, and supplies at $45,000, technology $44,000, instructional materials and supplies $180,000. So some pretty healthy budgets for sites to make those purchases to offer those additional programs at their sites. So the total high school, middle school value is about $3.7 million. And then on a district-wide basis, we also fund 1.4 of our technology staff to support our instructional technology in the classroom, and then 1 nurse. And then there's also some additional allocations for indirect cost and college readiness software in the amount of $428,000 total. So our total Measure AA budget is $6.96 million. So thank you, Measure A, and thank you for the community for supporting that and for providing such a large portion of our budget in enrichment for students. So looking at the fund balances and just how things have changed, in 24-25, the original budget, we thought we'd end with a reserve of about $17.6 million. That was pre-negotiations and before we added anything else to the budget. So right now at estimated actuals, we think that bottom line for the reserve is going to be about $15.6 million. And then looking into next year, we're expecting, obviously with no change, we haven't gone into negotiations yet, but if all else is equal, we would end with a reserve of about $16.6 million, so a growth of about $1 million in reserves. And that percentage keeps us well above the 10 to 16% range that we are have included in board policy. So on the multi-year projections, because we have to do the current year and the 2 subsequent years as well, looking at those different assumptions, those are a little harder to narrow down. We are being conservative on property tax increases, 3.25% for 26-27 and 2.75 for 27-28. We estimate an increase to our charter school in lieu tax payments of about $15,000 in 26-27 and an additional $80,000 in 27-28. And then if we can remain fairly staffed in our transportation department, we expect reimbursement increases in both of those out years as well, because it does fund a portion of our overall budget for transportation. We're not expecting any additional one-time discretionary funding from the state, so we do not include anything like that in the budget. We have some small COLA increases on very specific programs that we add to it based on the state estimated COLAs. And then we expect arts and music in schools funding to be ongoing because that is in the Constitution or it's approved by voters. And then looking at changes that we have recognized that are going to end after a while. The CYBHI grant and the TUPA grants will end after 26-27, so we have made accommodations for that to move the staff back into the general fund in those years. And then on expenditures, we don't include salary increases with the exception of step and column. So step and column estimates for the out years are 1.8% for certificated and 2.2% for classified. CalSTRS contribution rate will remain static, where CalPERS will continue to increase. So we expect an increase next year and then the following year. And then I've already talked a little bit about this, but we still have some wellness staff that we're funding temporarily with some restricted funding sources. So in 26-27, we will move most of that staff that's funded by Medi-Cal for the wellness program back into the unrestricted general fund. And then we also have some other staffing, like I mentioned, that are funded with the TUPA grant and the capacity grant for CBHYS. There we go. Moving those employees back as well. Another thing too that we're anticipating is that currently we have a student that's enrolled in a non-public school. That can be very expensive. It's about $185,000 to $200,000. And then we have another student that we are transporting down to Auburn for his education, and they are both going to be graduating after this year, so that'll be savings to us in the 26-27 year. Okay. Any questions on the multi-year projections?
Actually, just one. I know we didn't really put it in here, but sort of the federal funding question, and I know it's only 2% of the budget, so we've talked about that if we had to absorb it, we could, but how do you address that with a 5-year projection? You just kind of say it's an unknown at this point?
I think I always try to just use the best information I have, and a lot of different things I'm very conservative on this one, just because it is such an unknown. I've retained it in the out years, but that's why we have a large reserve as well, to be able to weather that. If funding was pulled back, then we can make adjustments. But really looking at a 2 and 3 year projection, and I even go out to the 4th year. It's really crystal ball. I mean, for a lot of different things. We don't know what our property taxes are. We don't know if federal funding is going to continue. So in this particular case, I did include it as being maintained in those out years, but we have enough time to adjust if that was pulled back from us.
I think in our experience too, at least at the town, we have seen already the federal grants applications forms change to have new requirements that they didn't have before. So I would expect the school district will see some of those changes kind of in the near future too. And some of them are things I think that are sort of counter to the ideals and ethics of the school themselves. So that's just something that, as you see those come forward, you'll probably have to grapple with, just like the town has had to grapple with.
Yep. No, it's something we'll keep a close eye on, and like I said, I'm conservative in a lot of things. In that particular one, I maybe wasn't as conservative as I could have been, but we'll definitely keep you posted on the status of that. Multi-year fund balances, so looking at the out years, obviously with no changes from what the assumptions have shown, our reserve, as I mentioned, would be about 16.6 million after 25-26, and then that would continue to grow to 18% and then 20.5% in the 27-28 year. And that's, of course, assuming there's no salary increases. We haven't negotiated it, so we can expect that that will be reduced. And then as a requirement of our budget, we do have to show compare our reserves to what we actually have to what the minimum state requirements are. And right now, for our size of unified school district, we're required to hold at least a 3% reserve, and that is a minimum. So looking at that in the 25-26 year, that would only be $3.1 million. So that doesn't afford you much time or any real if the economy took a downturn, you wouldn't really have much you could do with that. That's not even 1 month of payroll for us. So most districts do hold a reserve that's far above the minimum. So just comparing what our assigned and unassigned unrestricted general fund balances are. In 25-26, we have an excess, as they call it, of 14.8 million, and then the following year would be 16.5, and then 18.9. And just as a little side note, right now, looking at unified school districts in California, most of them are holding about a 24% reserve, so we are a little low, and that they're not even basic aid districts. So looking forward, obviously, we're going to look at those final budget trailer bills when the state budget gets adopted, hopefully on Friday. We have some light shed on the one-time money, but we have to wait for more details on that to see what that looks like exactly. Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, I did talk a little bit about that in my narrative. It looks like, based on what was approved by legislators and the governor yesterday, our funding will be fairly similar to what we're receiving now, about $975,000. And then obviously looking at those federal funding proposals and the potential impacts for that, and then getting our property taxes, our final numbers in July. One thing that we continue to monitor is TK staffing and funding. One thing that I should mention is post-budget. Just more recently, after we had actually created and developed this budget, we realized that we would have to add additional transitional kindergarten instructional assistants to multiple classrooms in our elementary schools. So that is going to be an added cost that we're going to bring forward to you at first interim. Right now, we're looking at adding about 6. And this is just to maintain and meet the universal transitional kindergarten requirements, which in 25-26, the adult to student ratio now goes from 12 to 1 to our student to adult ratio goes from 12 to 1 to 10 to 1. and we can't have class sizes over 24 students. So what happens is if you have a class size that's over 20, then you need to get another instructional aide in order to meet that 10-to-1 requirement. So it's a pretty big burden. We continue not to get funding for transitional kindergarten because we're outside of the LCFF, and there's still a fight in place to try to get basic aid districts funding for TK and this additional cost. Any questions?
Seeing no board questions?
Have a comment. First of all, like every year, this is so humbling for a layperson to go through this budget. And, I just, every year I learn more and more sticks, and I'm just so appreciative of this part of it because the homework part of it is overwhelming, right? Like, I think, but then you either reassure me or redirect me when you do your presentation. But I'm always appreciative of you being conservative, and something I learned tonight about the reserve, I was feeling really good about that 16%, and I feel really good about the 16%, but I was just surprised at how much higher other districts are holding. I understand why. I was just surprised.
And one thing I should mention too is a lot of districts built up the reserves during all that one-time funding that was being received, the ESSER funds and everything else. But just the last analysis that a consultant did was that most unified K-12 school districts are at around the 20 to 24% range.
Wow. So, goals. That's all I have, and thank you to your team.
Thank you very much for that. Any public comment on this item? Sure. You have to come up to you have to go, sorry about that. It's all good.
You're being televised, so they have to hear.
Oh,
And is that green button on that mic on?
Yes.
There you go. Ooh.
I would like to echo Board Member Hennessy's that you did a very good job at making lay people kind of understand what was happening. I have a question about the reserves. Is there a correlation between the dependence on state aid, like we're local aid and we're primarily funded locally? Is there a closer correlation with those that receive more state funding that they have a higher reserve because there's more volatility there?
No, actually, most normal districts that are LCFF funded, there has always been a correlation more along the lines of basic aid districts have more volatility, so they should hold higher reserves. Sorry, I didn't answer that straight, but generally, because our fluctuations in property taxes can have a really big impact on our financial condition, and we don't have backing from the state, so we built our budget based on those revenues as they've come in, and if we ever have a downturn, or if we have a very small increase in property taxes, then we might not be able to maintain what we have in the current budget in the out years. So with state, I wouldn't say they're more secure, but at least they have the state guarantees that they'll backfill to a certain point. The thing that they don't know always moving forward is what that cost of living increase is going to be, but they have projections at least that they can plan by, whereas a basic aid district, we have no idea what our property taxes are going to look like next year. But generally, as a rule, basic aids hold a higher reserve than non-basic aid districts.
And those projections for property taxes, as a property taxpayer, they didn't go up 4.5%. But are those based on new construction, new population increase? What brings that increase up?
So the state dictates what assessors can increase on your property taxes every year. That's all under Proposition 13. So the Board of Equalization every year determines based on CPI what that increase will be, but it cannot be more than 2%. So on those properties that people continue to own and retain, they will not see a larger than 2% increase on their assessed valuation, which translates into their property taxes. So really anything above 2% is really reliant on new construction and turnover. And those are some of the things that are really hard to track. We have 3 different counties within our school district, and all of the assessors kind of handle things with different timelines. But generally what happens around April, May is they start working on the new roles. So they're updating all of the transfers in property. They're trying to assess anything that's kind of might have increased in improvement value for different construction projects. And then when they finally complete that, then we know what our final assessed valuation increase is. Does that help?
Will you do me a favor before you leave, just for the record, put your name in that, or just tell us who you are?
Yes, my name is Tara Burns, and I'm still confused about property taxes.
So without that information, we don't have access on a real-time basis to all of that turnover information. So when someone sells their house that, might be assessed today at $300,000 and they sell it for $900,000, that's going to be an increase in the assessed valuation on the next tax roll by $600,000. We don't really have that inside information. We don't see those transfers on a regular basis. So really, we kind of rely towards the budget development period, April, May, for the assessors to give us an estimate. And what they'll generally do is kind of do a snapshot of where they're at with the roll at that time. So they've made some adjustments, but not all. There's some other counties in the state that will give a more, more information to school districts and give a better estimate, but we just have to rely on what we have. As far as the out years, we try to be conservative. I mean, if you look at it historically on average, our property taxes exceed the 3.25 that I'm budgeting in the out year. But we've also had years where we've had negative property tax growth as well. So we try to be conservative, looking at that 2% CPI number, and then realizing that there's probably going to be some turnover and some increases to assessed value. So it's just really a conservative number for us, but we really don't know what it's going to look like.
Got it. Thank you.
Tara, will you just push that button so it's off, so we don't get, yeah. Yep, awesome, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that, Todd. I'm sure we all probably gained a little bit of knowledge of that as well, so appreciate that. This is an action item. If there are no further questions or comments from the board, would someone care to make a motion to approve the presented proposed budget adoption?
I'll move to accept the 25-26 proposed budget.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Thank you to your team as well, Todd. That's definitely a huge accomplishment. Superintendent's report 10.0, thanks.
Thank you, Dee Dee Driller. So I'm happy to share that even though school just ended 9 days ago, that our summer programs are up and running. If I could have the next slide. Thank you. So already started is our extended learning opportunity programs you heard about in the budget that our Boys and Girls Club of North Lake Tahoe runs for us. Those have started. Our TTUSD summer school started on Monday as well, and the credit recovery for the high school students. And then next Monday, Aim High begins. And then towards the end of July, there's a 2-week TK's Summer Bridge Camp. So we're very excited for our students that participate in these programs, and a big thank you to the Ed Services team that oversees this and gets it all going. Along with the summer programs, we have a summer meal program, thanks to our amazing food services team. And they started serving today, and already our food services director, Kat, was sharing okay, we've already got to redo the routes. There's a high demand for the meals, but you can see that they deliver the neighborhood meal program, which started today, weekly fresh scratch cooked breakfasts and lunches to the families for children 18 and under. And then also they serve the meals for the Boys and Girls Club program that started on June 23rd over at Truckee L. At Kings Beach, they do their own food. So we appreciate Kat and the amazing chefs and Romy who provide all of these meals for our families. I know that it's very much appreciated. And then we heard about Measure AA and the budget update and how important it is. And coming to all mailboxes in the area is a thank you from the district. to our community for supporting Measure AA. It is a double-sided flyer, and it just highlights how much money and revenue we receive from Measure AA, and then how it makes such a difference in our school with enhancing the education for our students. So we really appreciate the community's support through Measure AA. And then later in tonight's board meeting, we'll have our strategic plan update for Community Connections when our Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Ed Hilton, and lead teacher Susie Bates do an update on the outdoor education program. And that concludes my update.
Marvelous. Thank you very much. Oops, sorry. Thank you for that, Superintendent Kramer. And moving to 10.2. Back to you.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you, President Driller. So for this item, I'm going to provide a brief presentation, and please stop me if you want more detailed information, just kind of recapping. Then there is time for public comment, and then I'll be seeking board guidance. So during the presentation tonight, I'll talk about the California Interscholastic Federation, better known as CIF, and then transition timelines and required due dates. I'll also review some of the changes that have occurred since our special board meeting on May 14th, and then ask for guidance from all of you. So to recap, in early May, the district staff saw our only choice as being switching to CIF in the 25-26 school year. We didn't see a path forward where our students could participate in the sports in Nevada. One of the larger hurdles being the physical form, sports physical clearance form, and how that had changed. The board requested a special board meeting, and we held that on May 14th. And after great community input and discussion and information, the board requested a delay that we would not switch to CIF until the 26-27 school year. To help gain further understanding of the process and what that would mean, we had the board study session. And really what surfaced was the conflict between trying to do a full calendar year, 1 year delay, and then the timeline that CIF needs from us. And that timeline's important because we want a positive league placement for Truckee High School, and we want our athletic directors and administrators to be able to work with CIF in order to get that placement. But that would need a commitment for us. So we, as a staff team, are coming to you tonight for updated guidance because what we're seeing with trying to switch to CIF for the 26-27 school year is not allowing us a 1 year process. So these are just the deadlines. And so in just a month's time, CIF and NIAA start planning already for the following school year, which, as we're learning about the complexities of sports and athletics, it makes sense. There's a lot to it. So this is where we run into the issue of not really having a full year. And we wanted the full year to have community engagement, really look at the financial impact, and try to come up with facility solutions for tennis and soccer, which have the sport seasons change. Okay. A golf also. Had a golf, I think boys golf or girls golf had a season change. Yep, yeah. So the other context I want the board and the community to have are some of the recent changes since the special board meeting on May 14th. So our largest obstacle with remaining in NIAA was that sports physical form. Originally, with information we had at the beginning of May, was that Tahoe Forest medical providers would not be able to support filling out the form completely. They've worked hard as a team, and thankfully by the end of May, they had reversed their decision, and those medical providers can complete the sports physical form. So that removes the major hurdle for us. We still have some legal risk remaining in NIAA, but this makes it much more manageable. So we know we can't solve the problem because our district is in California and therefore is obligated to follow California state law. But for athletics, we're in Nevada, and they changed the policy that conflicts. So it can't get rid of that conflict. We're trying to manage it, and this physical form has now become manageable. That's a very important piece of information. And I just wanted the board to note that NIAA did change their form on June 5th. So since it's a new policy, we'll probably see continued adjustments. The other important context is what's happening between the federal and state level. So on June 2nd, the Department of Justice sent California school districts a letter warning about exposed legal liability by following CIF policy. June 9th, the California Department of Education responded. And then just today, President Trump and the Trump administration responded and explained that the California Department of Education is violating federal law with staying with CIF policy. So in other words, it's very active and there's a lot of conflict and unresolved. So we can anticipate over the next few months and a couple of years that this will keep playing out until it gets resolved in some way. So because of that, I'm seeking updated board guidance. Couple of options I've been thinking of, but of course, I'm very open to other ideas from the board. One would be attempting to join CIF in the 27-28 school year. As we talked about in the study session, that still is a barrier because some of the scheduling deadlines for CIF and getting that good league placement is problematic. And then the option 2, extending the delay indefinitely or remaining at NIAA is the second option. At this point, my recommendation is to take option 2 for 3 main reasons. One being that context of the state and federal being unclear and a lot of uncertainty. The other being our major concern originally was we wouldn't be able to field sports teams because we couldn't get our kids cleared to play, but now we have a path forward, and that makes a big difference. And then third, our community has been amazing through this process with coming to the meetings, providing comment, emailing in, and really talking this through. And through that process, we've learned that staying at NIAA is very important to our community. And we know that student athletics is really that community partnership. And so listening to our community is important. So that's why I would recommend option 2 at this time. So, board, I don't know if you want to switch to public comment or respond a little bit first, or if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. I think what I'll do is actually, board, if you have any questions before we put it out, just before, and then we can deliberate after we hear public comment. Does anyone have any questions pertaining to this at this point? Okay, with that, let's go ahead and do the public comment that's pertaining to athletics. And then we can deliberate afterwards and then provide guidance. Okay, so at this point, we have 3 people. You will have 3 minutes, come to the podium, state your name, and then we would love to hear from you. So first is Tara, and then Chris Brown, you will be following, and Megan Rose, you're bringing up the rear.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Kramer, President Driller, and the TTUSD Board. My name is Tara Burns. I'm the mother of 3 and a previous member of multiple education and youth activity boards. I empathize with your position, but I understand your duty as well. In previous sessions regarding the NIA move for our interscholastic athletics, our community and leaders agreed on taking time to examine the best path forward for all of our students. I appreciate you guys doing that and listening to the community, as Superintendent Kramer reflected. Before we asked for time, but now my question is why? Why would we consider this move when the safety, season schedule, tradition, relationship between club and interscholastic athletics, community input, logistics, and budget, here's you, Dr. Bacon, are all unquestionably pointing to staying in the NIAA? I have a whole nother paragraph that talks about some of the stuff that Superintendent Kramer addressed. Primarily the change that was announced today by the U.S. Department of Education. And it wasn't just California Department of Education was found in violation of civil rights and Title IX activities. Why would we further stress our just discussed budget with facility and transit changes? Why would we choose this path instead of remaining in a situation that serves us best? Why aren't we following the example of 40 other states and the NC2AA? They have found a way to offer opportunity to everyone without sacrificing the rights of others. I don't understand why we can't stay the course instead of hitching our wagons to lawsuits and fights. Please make it make sense. Explain to us why this direction would be defensible, changing to CIF. Why would it be pursued? Why are we aligning ourselves with a sinking, sued ship instead of sticking to what has worked best for everyone for over 40 years? My family and I made this little change, my family and I support Superintendent Kramer and her option 2, and we now implore the board to proactively defend and assert our position in NIAA, and to challenge the California Department of Education for their choices that place us at risk. Ideologies aside, the choice reflective of our district and our community is glaringly obvious, legally protected and defensible, and your job and duty to protect and pursue. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hi. My name is Chris Brown. I'm a parent of a couple of kids in the district, one of whom is here with me today, and a 1993 graduate of North Tahoe High. I wrote a letter previously on June 12th to the board, and I thank you guys for reading that and responding to it, especially Board Member Driller. Thank you. I'm very relieved to hear Superintendent Kramer's recommendation today. I think probably both Tara and myself had a different speech prepared. I don't know that we were expecting this response, and I'm relieved to see it. I think going ahead with this move, if we were to go ahead with the move to CIF, I think it is running towards legal risk. It's guaranteeing harm to our students and athletic programs, and it's being done in the name of a policy that just, despite support for the LGBT and trans communities, there's not widespread support for it. There was an article in today's LA Times covering the latest threats by the federal government that we just discussed from the Trump administration. The same article cited a New York Times poll showing that 7 out of 10 registered Democrats don't support trans athletes participating in girls' sports. The CIF and the California state law on these issues, I don't think it's long for this world. I think it's going to change under pressure from both the community and California society and legal challenges. I think it's going to adapt to something that more closely resembles like the NCAA rule or the Olympics or professional sports. This is high school. We can't have robust hormone testing protocols and things of that nature. It's just not doable at our level. So I'm happy to see that we're leaning against, or at least Superintendent Kramer is recommending against, basically going down with a sinking ship of California law. There's too many impacts to our district and just taking it back to the local level and getting away from these national issues and this strife and this disagreement. Just the concrete everyday impacts to our school district and our students is going to be rough. I don't even know if we have the budget to handle anything more than we're already doing at this point. And I want to say this is an accepting community. This is a supportive community, and I don't want anyone in the trans community to think that people aren't supportive of that community generally. This is a topic that's capable of reasoned, valid disagreement, and nobody should be villainized either direction for how they feel about it. Staying put in the NIAA for a few more years until this all gets worked out, it's not a huge legal risk in light of what's going on now. There's legal defenses we can take. There's practical reasons. It's really not doing anything. It's staying put. So I really thank Superintendent Kramer and the board for the work on this and for listening to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. Yeah, it's on. Thank you, Superintendent Kramer, President Driller, and trustees. I have written several previous letters that I know you guys have received, and my speech was very different tonight, but I just want to say that I'm a parent of 2 North Tahoe multi-sport athletes. North Tahoe hasn't been well represented or even recognized a lot in the communication that's gone back and forth on updates about the sports things. So I want you to keep in mind that we have a really large community of athletic supporters, and it's really important to pay attention to North Tahoe High School as well. My priority for Tahoe Truckee Unified School District is that students are safe, that we have community and education, and those are my top three priorities. I had a long spreadsheet and a 3-page letter for you guys tonight, but with option 2, I'm just proud to stand up here and just feel like you're doing the right thing and listening to the community. So thank you for that on behalf of my kids. And I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but like there's other parents in the audience that we are friends because we are able to go to our kids' athletics and we've become friends through that. And so our community is super important for that. So thank you. And again, we have 209 North Tahoe High School student athletes. Our community is super important. So as you make these decisions tonight, we just really appreciate you we're putting our confidence in you as appointed trustees to continue and hope that you will do the best for the needs of our student population and the athletic student athletes at the forefront of your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, team, for being there to support your parents. We expect you to come up and talk at some point as well, but that shows great support when you're here, so I really appreciate that you guys are here, or you ladies are here as well. Thank you for wearing blue. Charlie, who knows? But no, good point. Is there any other public comment that did not get an opportunity to fill out a card? Okay. You want to come up? I would love a student to come up. Please come up. Thank you. Make sure that green light is on.
I also wrote a letter, but I
Will you
did
state your
not
name
send
first,
it.
please?
Oh, my name is Sydney Rose. I'm a multi-sport athlete at North Tahoe High School. I feel as though you guys are kind of leaving out North Tahoe High School and the 306 North Tahoe students, and as well as the 67 soccer players at North Tahoe. You keep talking about how there's a possibility to build Truckee faculty and find the correct placement for Truckee, but it seems as though you are forgetting about North Tahoe. I ask you, please not to forget about the 306 student athletes at North Tahoe High School, those of which who are also multi-sport athletes. Thank you.
Sydney, thank you.
My name is Emma Brown, and I go to North Tahoe as well. I just finished my 8th grade year, and I'm 13. I am going to be a freshman in high school, obviously, this year, and I've been doing soccer since I was 4 years old. I've played with boys. It's a really big part of my life, and I've actually given up a lot of other commitments to pursue soccer, such as dance, I've also been doing since I was really, really little. And that was definitely a hard thing to do. So it's pretty hard to hear that soccer might kind of suffer if we switch leagues. And I just really think that we should reconsider, because it is, and I'm sure on a lot of other sports too, that it would make these sports, it's kind of forgetting, also going down the mountain and everything in the snow, I just don't think it will work out. So I just think that we should really reconsider switching.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you for speaking. And with that, we will close public comment, and then we'll move it to the board for deliberation and discussion. Would anyone care to start?
I'll start. First, I want to acknowledge the North Tahoe families that are here, and I want to reassure you that in our conversations and communications, it's always about the district. It's just that a lot of the public comment portion of the last several meetings have been highly represented by Truckee High, but I also want to let you know that the last, and I don't know what we call it, the board education meeting that we just had, the study session that we had, that Mr. Fleesock completely stepped up for you, 1,000% stepped up for you. So I just want to reassure North Tahoe families that you have not been left out of the equation. It's just you hear Truckee in a lot of other things as well, not just athletics, because they have so many kids, right? They're like double your school and double the Lakeside. So, but rest assured, we have definitely kept you in the process. I just wanted to say that, you know, I live in Placer County, and I go to, over the last 28 years at least, I go to a lot of Placer County meetings that things are discussed, such as sidewalks, density, building, selling redevelopment lots. I mean, just so many things. And our community is very engaged. We're very organized. We show up, we use our voices, and then the board deliberates, and then they vote completely the opposite of what sometimes up to 300 people in a humongously long meeting have voiced. So, I understand that, and I had reservations already, and most of my reservations about CIF really are about Highway 80. But I did listen to the athletic directors. I did listen to coaches at our last meeting. I learned a lot, and I was so thrilled to get in our homework kind of like, consider this or this, because I would want us to do the what the families are asking, and it's just at least for now, indefinitely delay, especially after what we learned during our study session, which is we either need to decide today for this next school year or wait a year anyway. So if we're going to do that, I would vote with, or I would go with, support indefinitely until all the powers that be get their stuff together. So that's my thought.
Thank you, Trustee Hennessy.
I guess that wasn't deliberation. I've decided in my head that's what I want to do.
She's telling the audience, but I didn't hear any of that. That's awesome. Okay. Moving down the line.
Yeah, I think we've kind of experienced that this has become a moving target because, you know, we started off with the challenges with the form, and then, you know, families not being able to have them filled out because the hospital wouldn't be able to do it, and then that sort of shifted, and in the process, we had our whole athletics team, you know, working on options for the what if, like what if we have to move because we can't get this form signed, and we learned about some benefits of CIF for sure. I think there were some new options of things that we just didn't even realize were out there. But I think one of the things we had talked about as a community, and when I say community, that's our district for sure. There's no boundary there. It's our district. That really the challenges were kind of obvious for us between everything the parents raised of, you know, getting over the summit and, you know, sort of longstanding teams that we've played with, and I mean, just so many things that we talked through over and over again that it became obvious to me that a move to CIF wasn't going to sort of create this perfect solution. We weren't going to be able to support the no student left behind concept that we talked about. And although it had some benefits, the negatives were really potentially leaving things, you know, our students behind that we didn't want to. So it was golf, you know, it was soccer, girls soccer in particular, and tennis. Just as some examples of things that we knew would be incredibly challenging. And yes, budget, I mean, so many things. And so I think because the form has been resolved, it sort of took the relief valve and gave that to us as an opportunity to say, we don't need to make this move. So I definitely support staying with NI2A. And maybe one other upside of that, that was a recent development, is the sanctioning of lacrosse. Which is new, that would be new. And I think there's a lot of, maybe I'm selfishly saying this, but there's a lot of people.
I was just going to say.
A lot of community members who are backing lacrosse. And so I feel like that, you know, would have happened regardless of whether we moved or not, but because now it is also going to be available in NI2A, that's a new opportunity. So that seems pretty exciting too. So I definitely agree that
we've gotten as much information as we can. It would be nice to pivot and not have to make the shift, to not have to spend our resources doing that. I think we have other challenges like healthcare costs that we're going to need to wrap our heads around. And that seems like where our focus is going to be, between that, trying to figure out how to make our cost of living more affordable. I mean, there's just so many other things that we need to work on as a community that I think the NI2A staying seems to be the right choice.
Thank you, Danielle.
My recommendation is for option 2. And over the last several meetings, we heard from a lot of community members, and we've received a number of letters, and I appreciate the community for that. It's helped inform my decision and how I feel about it, and how passionate we are about athletics in our district, and that comes as no surprise to me. Having heard what the other board members said regarding, I agree with all of the reasons for staying with the NI2A. The form was a big catching point that I'm glad to see has been revised. I still think there's gray area in it that I'm not real in love with, but I think it will get us through temporarily. And I also want to keep in mind that while California law may be a sinking ship in regards to this, it is still California law, and we have been in no uncertain terms told that we are knowingly in violation of California law, knowingly, and we are making this decision. And I think that may come back to say something to us. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping all the legal issues are put on hold until they're resolved, and that they leave us alone, and that we can let our kids play sports without any hindrance and have fun. And if I could just jump ahead real quick in regards to the MOU for athletic directors. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for that. I do want to acknowledge the fact that we have not, Pat's comment about being liable, we recognize that as a possibility. I think Superintendent Kramer said this is a non-solvable entity, and I think we're trying to come up with the best solution. Our LGBTQ population is still a valued, as Chris said earlier, it is a valued part of our community, and we, as a community, I think that we're so powerfully supportive of that. This is just something that's out of our wheelhouse, and I think that I don't want anyone to think that we're just throwing our hats in and just saying this is what we're doing because it's too difficult. Our health issues right now, our concern, health insurance policies that are coming down our pipe right now are just insurmountable. And so I think that there are things in our budget, as you mentioned, that we have to address, that we have to do that. I do appreciate the North Tahoe blue streak that's here. I just made a note when we were talking about it, the need for the immediate change or the immediate decision was because of Truckee High School's football series, which would have been, we had to do it today so they could get into it next year. And to me, that one made me just kind of gag a little bit, that I'm not comfortable having one school site be the deterring factor of the entire population. And so as much as Truckee had and I don't want to ever belittle football, I mean, I'm definitely a sports person, but that should never be the deciding factor in terms of why we made a decision because of their league. And then the other thing I was going to say is that, yes, it is definitely something that is, I want to respect the ADs and the principals who spent hours and hours for our special board meeting to research what CIF does. That organization, the Federation, is awesome. Yeah. They're really, really good. It's just wrong place, wrong time. I do want to say that I'm actually leaning more toward I'm not saying indefinitely, because at this point there are some major benefits, and I don't ever want to close the door to CIF. I wouldn't want to change for the reasonings that we've been given. Like, I don't think that we need to go for that, but I think if there's a better program for our schools, I'm looking at Pat because of athletics, but if there's a better program, then that's great. But at this point, I don't think that's the reason to switch. So I definitely I would remain in NIAA, but I'm not sure if I would say forever. Like, I don't know if indefinitely is the way to put it, but I definitely support not making any decisions now and having NI2A be we've heard it from our public, we've heard it from everybody. The reason I think that the principals and the athletic directors did that due diligence is because they thought they were forced, and they busted butt. They did it. But I think that we should definitely remain in NI2A. So with that, does that give you clear direction?
No, that's great. And North Tahoe High School, just echoing the athletic directors, they were happy with their league placement. And so that's why you didn't hear as much in this final piece. But we definitely, as Trustee Hennessy said, is well represented. So I'm sorry that you didn't feel as included. So what we'll do then is we'll let the athletic committee know that the decision is to remain in NIAA. We don't have any immediate plans to switch to CIF. We'll let CIF know. Then everyone has certainty so they can schedule appropriately for the upcoming years. I really appreciate the board guidance. I appreciate the community for your involvement, all the great thinking, all the great public comments, and just really working with us. Honestly, 2 months ago when it first came out, we were stuck. We didn't see a path forward. So I'm so appreciative of everyone's support. It's been amazing. So thank you. And we'll just close this chapter for now, knowing that we have a little bit of worry, but we're just going to move forward. Yep.
Thank you very much for all that, and what an awesome opportunity for our community to get together. At this point, we will move to our presentation 11.0.
And I'm happy to invite up our Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Ed Hilton, also known as Outdoor Ed, and then Susie Bates, one of our amazing teachers. I do apologize. I'm actually starting with Mrs. Roderick. My apologies, Mrs. Roderick.
Thank you. This evening, we are happy to share an update on the Outdoor Education Program, which is dedicated to fostering environmental stewardship through immersive outdoor learning experiences. Our goal is to integrate outdoor experiences with academic learning, promoting student development from transitional kindergarten through 12th grade. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ed Hilton, who will share more about the Outdoor Education Program.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Roderick. Good evening, President Driller and members of the board. As you know, my name is Ed Hilton, and while many in the district are beginning to call me Outdoor Education, my official roles are Chief Technology Officer and the lead for our Outdoor Education Strategic Plan. I'm thrilled to be here to present our Year 2 update on this exciting initiative. The progress we'll share tonight is the result of a tremendous collaborative effort across our district and community, and I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Susie Dale.
Good evening. I am Susie Dale, a 25-year veteran of TTUSD and currently a science specialist at Glenshire Elementary and the district's outdoor education lead teacher. It's a pleasure to be here to share the exciting work our teams have been engaged in this past year.
To begin, we want to ground our update in the why behind the work we do in outdoor education. And these photos taken over the past year show our students actively engaged in learning within our unique Tahoe Truckee environment. This is our town backyard. The overwhelming consensus from all our stakeholders is that outdoor education is highly valued and beneficial. It fosters not only environmental awareness, but also promotes physical and mental health, supports classroom learning, and builds confidence and resilience. For students who may struggle in traditional settings, it offers a more engaging and supportive environment for learning. These are the foundational experiences we are committed to expanding.
Our work is guided by a clear and powerful vision, which was developed and refined by our collaborative work group in Year 1 of our strategic plan. We are empowering a new generation of environmental stewards through outdoor education. We unite to ensure every student develops the environmental literacy needed to understand, cherish, and actively care for the unique Tahoe Truckee region. This vision is the driving force behind our strategic efforts.
To provide some context, let's briefly revisit Year 1 of the strategic plan. Our focus is outlined in Action 3.3 was to evaluate the current outdoor education opportunities for our students. We conducted comprehensive surveys, programmatic analysis with our partners, our teachers, our parents, and students and community members, and it revealed a strong desire for more frequent and more diverse experiences for our Tahoe Truckee students. The process confirmed the high value for our community placed on these programs, highlighting some logistical challenges that we've run into and some funding that we need to address.
This year, our focus shifted to collaboration, guided by Strategic Action 3.3.2. We worked to evaluate our community partner collaborations and address the identified challenges to expand outdoor education for all students. A key part of this was forming 4 distinct sub-work groups, each tasked with a specific focus area, to ensure we were making tangible progress on multiple fronts.
We could move on without sharing that our success this year would not be possible if it weren't without the incredible collaboration of our 45 work group members and community partners. A core goal of this initiative is to maximize efficiencies and minimize redundancies by working together as a team. We want to recognize the invaluable contribution of our partners and the individuals that represent them. We're grateful for their continued support and collaboration. Partnerships with Sierra Watershed Education Partnerships, the Tahoe Institute for Natural Science, Headwaters Science Institute, and the Seichen Outdoor Education Program continued strong this year. We're also thrilled to highlight expanded collaboration with the UC Davis Tahoe Environmental Research Center and its Center for Community and Citizen Science, as well as the California State Parks and Adventure Risk Challenge. We're already working on collaborative grants and future staffing partnerships.
Our first work group focused on curriculum and instruction, analyzing our existing programs to ensure they align with standards and identify any learning gaps. Their goal is to show that outdoor education is not just about science, but about a whole child approach that integrates cross-curricular standards. A major achievement was the collaboration with the firm Inclusion Outdoors to draft a comprehensive TK through 12 vertical articulation document. This continuum of outdoor education is built upon a strong foundation of state standards, including the Next Generation Science Standards and the California Environmental Principles and Concepts. It also directly addresses state requirements for climate change education as mandated by Assembly Bill 285. To bring all these elements together into a cohesive whole child approach, we developed our own holistic framework of head, heart, hands, and feet. This unique structure guides our approach and highlights the most important aspects of outdoor education and environmental literacy. Head represents the academic skills and knowledge students gain. Heart focuses on social emotional learning, sensitivity, positive attitudes, and self-efficacy. Hands emphasizes civic engagement through action and service. And feet builds a deep and meaningful connection to place. Work group 2 centered on green schoolyards and access. Their work involves creating outdoor classroom spaces and integrating green initiatives like art, murals, and gardens at each school site. The group has started to work with our new Director of Facilities to support equitable green schoolyards district-wide, with the goal of working on a prototype projects and sustainable additions to the TTUSD Facilities Master Plan. Group 2 is using frameworks like the Outdoor Classroom Challenge from Project Green Schools to guide sites in creating a vision, maintenance plan, and budget. This represents a new schoolyard paradigm, using our campuses as ecosystems to enrich learning, enhance student wellness, and foster a connection with nature. Glenshire Elementary has served as a fantastic prototype site for our green schoolyards work this year, modeling how we can transform our campuses into vibrant outdoor learning environments. This year, we implemented 2 key projects. First, a school garden, where every grade level participated in planting, creating school-wide connection to the space. Second, we established a versatile outdoor classroom that all teachers can use to integrate hands-on learning into any content area. The work is ongoing. Future plans include building additional outdoor classroom spaces to allow more classes to learn outside simultaneously. We are also developing an MOU with the Glenshire Devonshire Homeowners Association to explore use of adjacent land. Just this month, through a wonderful partnership with Grateful Gardens, new trees were planted to provide much-needed shade for the playground and field, directly improving the daily experience for our students. The site provides an excellent model for how we can approach greening initiatives across the district.
Our third work group was dedicated to forming the Tahoe Truckee Outdoor Coalition, inspired by successful models in other communities. The group decided to pursue a collaborative structure with fiscal sponsorship from partners like the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation and Excellence in Education. The coalition drafted and approved the mission to leverage our collective strengths and co-create impactful initiatives. Together, Group 3 has defined 3 key outcomes: enriched academic learning, holistic student development, and building an effective and collaborative coalition together. Our fourth work group has been focused on the exciting work of transforming the former Rideout facility into the Tahoe Lab and Outdoor School. Tahoe stands for Transformational Adventures and Hands-On Outdoor Education. Our team collaborated with Headwaters Science Institute to run a successful 2-day, 1-night prototype program in April. We hosted over 75 students, parent volunteers, high school leader counselors, and 1 school board president for the overnight. This was a critical test of our logistics, and we are now deep in planning stages for a 3-day, 2-night experience for all 300 of our 6th graders at Alder Creek and North Tahoe Middle Schools this October. This would not have been possible without the incredible support from our TTUSD maintenance, custodial, and IT departments. They have worked tirelessly to clean out rooms, inventory useful equipment, reconnect phones and speakers, and develop logistical plans for food service, transportation, and student needs. We are also so thankful for the foundational grant of $100,000 for bunk beds from the Excellence in Education Foundation. This support is a game changer, allowing us to fast track these prototypes and create a true residential outdoor science school for our students.
The impact of this work is best heard directly from our students. After their overnight experience, students said, "I got closer to my friends and felt independent. Going to Tahoe Lab, an outdoor school, made me understand and care more about nature. And I loved seeing and hearing all the frogs. There were so many." These voices highlight the profound personal, social, and environmental connections being forged through these immersive experiences.
But don't take our word for it. In this video, you'll hear directly from more students about their experiences at Tahoe.
Sleeping over with my friends was fun, but I also liked researching and making graphs about a topic that we got to choose.
I remember learning how to measure a cabana of a tree. Wait, I don't know if that's right. Yeah.
The s'mores.
The most fun for me was pillow fight.
The boys' room.
As we look ahead to year 3, our focus will be on implementing and evaluating the prototype programs we've developed. Guided by Action 3.3.2 for the 25-26 school year, we will use school site feedback and data to refine and scale the successful strategies we've identified, ensuring our outdoor education programs are sustainable and continue to grow. For the coming year, Work Group 1 will refine the TK-12 curriculum framework based on feedback from our education partners, SWEP, TINS, and Headwaters, from our prototype programs, and school site teachers and administrators. We will be focusing on place-based learning and cross-curricular connections. Work Group 2 will continue working with our school sites to implement their green schoolyard plans using a district action plan template, and will explore creative solutions for any challenges that arise, ensuring all students can access the outdoors at their own school sites.
Simultaneously, Work Group 3 will focus on formalizing the outdoor coalition structure, developing operational agreements, and securing grant funding and seed money for planning to ensure long-term sustainability. And Work Group 4 will continue developing programming at the Tahoe Outdoor School with the goal of becoming a fully certified residential outdoor science school in California. It's very similar to WASC accreditation. And we'll expand our partnerships and program offerings for all grade levels and all students in TTUSD. Really, the foundation we've built opens up some incredible possibilities. We're already working with our partners to explore the possibility of a Tahoe Basin Watershed Education Summit for students, bringing that back after some hiatus, and developing a gear library to ensure equity for all students. We're also building relationships with other partners like San Joaquin Office of Education, Oakland Goes Outdoors, the Sacramento Area Science Project with UC Davis, which includes professional development for our teachers. Thank you for your time and continued support. We're proud of the work accomplished this year and energized for the future of outdoor education in our district, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. It's always great having children help you out. Board comments or board questions?
Can we look at the logo one more time?
Sure.
Is it a compass?
There's a compass in there.
A mountain? I'm kind of looking at a side view, so
It's there.
It might be a little bit back, but there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a compass with some mountains and lakes. We try not to do Donner Lake or Lake Tahoe, but
Yeah.
the waters in our area, in our backyard.
No questions?
No questions, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So at this point, we'll open it up to any public comments. If you'd like anyone, come on up to the, if you want, and then we'll do questions. Don't go anywhere, you guys.
We won't.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Rachel Pringle, and I'm a parent here in TTUSD. I have 2 kids at Glenshire Elementary. I'm also a longtime outdoor educator and have been in the field for a long time. I'm also here tonight as the president of the board of Sierra Watershed Education Partnerships. And I just want to first say thank you to Ed and Susie for all your incredible work. They've been doing an amazing job, and to thank TTUSD for embracing this kind of thing. We know TTUSD has long supported outdoor ed for many, many years. And as you all know, SWEP has been around for 30 years and serves TTUSD students. That's all we do. We don't bring kids from the Bay here. We don't do we just serve kids from TTUSD and been bringing them outside to do outdoor ed for a long time, but we do green teams, waste management, winter safety, watershed education, science fairs, the Sage Hen, which used to be an overnight, and Envirovolution clubs, and now defensible space work, which has really been fun. So SWEP is really excited about all that TTUSD is doing and embracing, and we also expect changes to happen. You know, I know there's many, many providers now in our community, and we as an organization do expect changes within what we might provide because it needs to be equitable across the district. I was involved actually in a process like this as the head of a provider with San Francisco Unified School District when they were doing their eco-literacy plan from pre-K to 12. And that did mean changes to how certain providers provided various different programs. So SWEP is absolutely aware that there may be changes. We just wanted to bring to the board's attention just some concerns about some of the, just that the plan, whatever the plan is, could have effect on various different programs, funding, and operations. And we want to make sure that that is, really sensitively addressed, right, or talked with. And I've already talked to Ed about this and Susie, and so they know. And we're going to meet, and I really appreciate Ed's response to us about that in terms of thinking through, particularly with SWEP, what does that mean for us? Like, as an example, if TTUSD does take on green teams, which is great, that would mean a lot of changes for SWEP. That's like a big thing that we've done for many years. So I think some of those concerns have been coming up within staff who are, thinking about how this might affect them. So I, suggested to Ed, and he's been very responsive to having just some in-depth meetings about that. So I just wanted to bring that and have that be a public comment. And again, we're really excited about the potential of this and to partner. So we just want to have some more in-depth conversations. And again, thank you, Ed, for being responsive to that. Yeah. And congratulations, Susie, on all that you've done this year with the trees particularly. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Ski team. Yes. I'm like, wait, I know that name. How funny. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, so then at this point, I have a couple, any questions before I go? I do have a couple questions, and I think Rachel just mentioned something that I am extremely excited about this, as you know, and I'm glad that I was part of the overnight. This is the ultimate dream of all, having this here in our properties, and one, being able to use Ride Out has been awesome. That is the best in the world, and I'm really excited that it is an established environmental school site, like that is our site for environmental. One thing I didn't, and I should have done this before, but we did not get a preview of this before. Normally, we get a copy of what is out there. So if we do it again, is there a possibility?
Yeah, I believe the link was in the backup.
I couldn't get it to work. I thought it was just on my phone, so I did not.
Maybe I didn't share it.
It wasn't.
Blame it on technology.
Okay, I would blame it on technology, only because I did not get to see that, and I kept thinking it was just because I was on my phone. So, okay, so that was something. The other thing is, the concern I have, obviously, is funding, and I know that that's something that you had mentioned. You got a huge grant from Tahoe Community Foundation with the
Excellence in Education.
Sorry, okay, I wrote down the wrong one then. With the funding, and this is going to bring me back to my nursery school days, when we have entities that are out there trying to do the same thing, we're all trying to do environmental ed programs. My only concern is that if you start with, and I say you, when we start with this environmental ed school, Tahoe, and the programs are going, you're going to be tapping into the same resources and the same funding sources at the 45, I think SWEP has like 45 grants, because they've been existing on grants. So I guess my question is, are we using some of them? Are we working with them, or are you going sort of, I would say, these, maybe we can answer these later, but I'm concerned that you're going parallel with them. And so you're asking for, a Tahoe Outdoor Coalition gives you $100,000 for bunk beds, and that is it's an environmental grant that we're already getting. So I just am very cautious about, don't dilute the pot. And if we have somebody that's already getting grants out there, can we tie into them? And I don't want to I don't want to eliminate the ones that are already out there, but I would be very concerned that I don't want to go up to the same person and say, can I have money from you? And then Kirsten's going to come up and say, I have money. We have a well-established funding foundational framework with SWEP. And I'm not saying that SWEP is it sounds like when Rachel just said that they're very willing to change and adjust. They have an amazing amount of connections with environmental programs that I think that it would be a disservice if we didn't chime into what their platform is of donations. Because if they're based on grants, they are a nonprofit, and I'm sure Headwaters is too, where you are based on grants. And if there are grants in our Tahoe Basin that you're going to go to, I would hope that you have talked to SWEP and made it so that we do it together, because we're going to feed Paul to take away from Peter, or however that goes.
Are you saying you don't want to compete against grants from our partners?
Yes, correct. I don't want to have any partners that we have already using grants that we have. Our community supports us so wholeheartedly that I don't want to dilute an environmental ed program that's already going. And it could be TINS, it could be Headwaters, or it could be whatever. I just think that we need to be cognizant of what's already being given.
I just wanted to celebrate excellence in education because they were very thoughtful about this. So the bunk bed grant, they were also able to give SWEP I think it was $250,000 or $200,000 in their typical grants too. So we're being very mindful because, like you said, there is only so many funds available, and we don't want to be competing for them. And so you'll hear from the team that they're going out larger. We do pay SWEP for services, they get grants, and so we're hoping by expanding our opportunities, we're asking for them to participate more and also us funding them more. as they do things. So we definitely are aware of this. I've had the privilege of talking with Missy a couple of times, but I love that. We do have to be mindful of this, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I just think that we all are looking for money, and I think that we have a huge environmental plug here, and there's a lot of, I just think that it would be, and this is Mrs. Jones at nursery school, do not, like I had West Shore, someone else had North Shore. You don't duplicate what you're trying to do. The other thing is that this program that we have at Ride Out, and I know we're in the infancy and we're starting things, the vision is to do an outdoor ed program. Are we focusing only on our kids first, or is that a priority? Like our TTUSD kids, I'm hoping are a priority, and that we do everything with them first. And if there's a need, and I would understand, and I guess my thinking is that we are going to use other people, like Headwaters had a grant, so we were able to get that program in because they had money, and they were using our students. My understanding this summer, those kids are not necessarily our students.
All the students participating are our students, yes.
For the summer program as well?
That's correct.
Okay, so that was just my only concern, is that I just want to make sure that a priority is TTUSD students, and then San Joaquin is something different where we have to get funding, like that's going to be a money source for us.
Yes, we would like to make this program sustainable, and TTUSD only has so many students
Correct.
and so many programming opportunities. And as you know, the Ride Out facility is a gem, and it is something where we hope that, again, bigger revenue sources that can provide more sustainability.
Correct. Okay, and that's good. And so then and then, again, I apologize, I had all these questions, and I wish I'd been able to, I just apologize, I didn't answer them, or ask them earlier. In terms of the schedule that's already established with our schools and we have SWEP, and then we have TINS, and we have Headwaters that they've already made plans. Like, so this October thing that's coming in, that's new. That wasn't in the plan, so that one added on. So do you, as you make these, we look at already the existing plans that are already out there? So that we have to say, because right now, my understanding is that we weren't ready, North Tahoe wasn't on the plans. So all of a sudden it is now. So we now are, again, I just want to make sure that the scheduling that we have established isn't altered because of excitement and new things happening.
We wanted to have time to make sure it's very important that the teachers and the school sites are on board with the programming that we're doing. And to launch the prototypes, we were working with Alder Creek for a while. They were first on board since they had been continuing the overnight for quite a while. And we wanted to offer the same opportunity for North Tahoe School to consider and think. So we have multiple meetings with the principal and their sixth grade team. And they just decided within the last maybe 10 days or so to join on. So that's why the quickness, you may have heard before that they hadn't, but now they do.
Okay, because my understanding was that there was already something happening with our schools at Sagehen, and like, I know that SWEP is busy that time. That's the only reason I was asking. In that last meeting we had, SWEP said they were busy, and then now that there's going to be a conflict. So I'm just pointing it out that we just have to be sensitive if that's what we're doing, because the SWEP was here and they have a schedule, and I'm not standing up for SWEP. I just don't want us to overbook and take things away without making sure that we're looking at a calendar. And I just said calendar, so I'll just keep going with my other ones. And then, as I mentioned in our last meeting, that I'm very concerned with other entities that come in. I know we need them, and I appreciate money coming in from other sources. I do not want other partners to use Ride Out as their Tahoe hub. So I don't want I really want us to make sure that we look at Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, and this is us, and we're going to use people to come in to support us because it's an amazing thing they should have. But I'm concerned that we would have an outside entity using us, San Joaquin, any of those people. I just want to make sure that they understand that this is our hub, and that we just need their money. Not really.
Wait, can I ask you a question about that, or do you want me to?
No.
Okay, so in the past how we've gone, say, for example, Catalina, right? So it's understood that Catalina is its own Marine Institute, and they allow schools to bring their students in. So you're just saying the clarification, or that it should be clear that this is like a place they can come, but it's not like TTUSD doesn't have any ownership over Catalina when we do those trips, or did do those trips. You just want a very clear thing, like you need to see if there's availability. Are students trump any other district? Those kind of things. Okay. I just was trying to find.
Catalina didn't have a school, like, so they're not a district, it was just a site. So,
Correct,
yeah, okay,
yeah.
cool. They may have been affiliated with a school, I don't even know. Okay, that is awesome. And then the other thing I had was, I think that was it. A framework, you said you made it, where is the TK-12 vertical articulation document? There was a link in there, but we don't have that.
Yeah, I'll make sure. Sure.
Okay, thank you, because then we would love to see that. And I think those were all of my questions. I like the more frequent, I like the more diverse. And true story, I went up to behind Rideout yesterday, and the California State Park is here. They did that whole amazing forest cleanup. The Washoe Tribe is up. They went up zigzag up like 3 roads above our house and have just made huge clearing. It's awesome. They're going to clear all the way there. So they're on it. And so I just, somebody took pictures last night when we were up there, and so we sent it to Megan, is that who was doing it with Defensible Space? Can't remember her name. Anyway, so there's a lot going on. And Susie, I said this to you, the hardest thing is just keep reins on what we want, because that list could have been longer, that last page, it could have been. So I implore you to just send it, but just remember that we are just going slowly, like we just gotta, because there's so many, there's so many things. And I am definitely part of it, so I'm there, I'm a volunteer. I've got many years of outdoor ed. Okay, thank you for my platform. Pat is psyched he had to go to another obligation. With that is an info, if I'm correct? Okay. Okay,
I
thank you.
didn't have a ton to add to that, but I do appreciate having the update, and I feel like this is evolving, and I have a lot of faith in the 45 people team that has been working on this, and I'm sure we'll work out the details of who's doing what. I think that's just the nature of something that's new, that you kind of have to go back through everyone's roles and responsibilities. I feel like you'll figure that out. I like the option of having outside of district schools come, because if you think about who's coming here to visit or potentially live here, part-time, full-time, whatever, like having them educated early about
so true.
who we are,
Yep.
I think is so impactful. I mean, we really are a magnet for the state. So I think that's a long-term sustainable way to support this program.
I think we have to.
Versus grant funding, especially right now, could be a little bit more hit and miss. And so I do understand wanting to prioritize our district students, but I think we've all come out of school districts where you had opportunities to go kind of outside of your district boundary and learn. And that was just really beneficial in kind of understanding how your district fits in, like your state or your region or any of that. So I think that's an exciting aspect of this that could be a long-term sustainable option for the funding side of it too. But more so just because I think that the education side would be so beneficial.
Right. I also think that's what Susie was trying to say. You're educating people to become better stewards of the environment. But that's, how many times do you see people come up on vacation and you're just like, seriously? Like you wouldn't do this in your backyard.
But I think about too, I mean, I have friends who are teachers in LA Unified, and third grade students who have literally never touched dirt because they've grown up only in LA where they live, there just isn't dirt. And so having an opportunity for someone who potentially is from, LA district coming up here to learn could be so impactful. I mean, I just think about the benefit of that that's not an opportunity that they would have potentially had before. So I think it sounds like we're open, we're thinking about all opportunities and go forward.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
So
Thank
do you
for
have?
that.
No, please.
I was just saying, do you mind if I respond, President Troller, to a few things? Number one, thank you for, there are so many people that are involved in this process, and I'm very thankful to all the partners, the teachers, the community members, the students who've given feedback and shared in this. And I think it's really important to know that it's not like something that Susie and I are creating in the back room, but that it's something that a lot of people are doing about it out of love for the outdoors in our community. Both Susie and I have other full-time jobs that we're doing, and we're sharing this. And so we're excited to provide this for our kids. And every single one of those partners that we spoke about, including SWEP on the list, is a part of each one of those work groups and has contributed input and ideas to move forward. So we invite everybody. There's nobody that's left off the invitation list to that. And so we've had a lot of, especially in work group 3, discussion around how partners work together. And it is hard. I think, you know, the one group that we're kind of looking at to model the Outdoors Coalition after was in Richmond. They didn't have as legacy partners as part of their group. So I think sometimes when you create something from nothing, it's a little easier than to create something where there's already things happening and getting people to work together and think about new things. And we're willing to go through some of those growing pains, and it certainly has been hard, but we're always open to discuss and be transparent about what we're doing. And we just wanted to let you know that. And currently there is no partner inside or outside TTUSD that's planning on using Ride Out as their hub for outdoor education programming. However, we have been outreached, and we're working with the San Joaquin Office of Education. It could be a way that we could scale up quickly. They actually own a camp in our area. It's called Sky Mountain. It's within actually the boundaries of our district. And they've reached out to us because they have to close down for about 6 months to 8 months to do some big changes at their site. And they want to keep the Tahoe kind of Tahoe National Forest feel. And so they're looking at ways, it may not be, they're looking at a couple other sites as well. But if it was a possibility that we could kind of build behind them. And they also were overbooked. They can't host all of their districts, their kids. Placer County doesn't have a very deep outdoor education program yet, so we're hoping to partner with them in the future. So that's another place we're going. You'll find that these programs are typically run by county offices of education. So the fact that Tahoe Truckee is willing to put resources and time and volunteer effort in our community, I think it just shows what a world-class place we are, and that Tahoe Truckee should have a world-class outdoor education program. And none of us, no one partner, no one person can do it alone. We need all those partners together. There's no grant funding that we've gone after that will take away from other folks. However, we have had, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation has said that if you're able to align better and have better plans about what you're doing together, such as the framework that you'll be able to look through, it's an opportunity for, instead of 5,000 here, 10,000 there, smaller programs, you can launch larger initiatives that can get bigger amounts of your program funded. So we're excited about looking at what that could look like, and it's going to take every partner, including TTUSD, looking at what we've done in the past and kind of look forward for our kids. And the strategic plan, and we keep going back to that, and all the group is, we go off, but it's enhance, and they enhance what we're doing to expand what we're doing, not change what we're doing, or replace what we're doing. So and currently we don't have equity. You know, all our kids do not experience these things. So the fact that we are bringing back an overnight experience for all of our 6th grade students is something that is really powerful, and we're proud of all of our partners for stepping up to help us make that happen for our kids.
I do like the fact that we have other people coming in, because I do think it does give other kids a chance to share and enjoy. Who monitors the reservations for? Oh. Wow, Dan. You didn't waste a second. Who monitors the reservations? Like if I want to come in and do it?
You can talk to Todd and I. We'll hook you up.
Does it go like as an application and then?
We follow the same reservation process.
Is it on the website though?
Not yet.
Just checking. Okay.
So, not that Mr. Rivera is not qualified, but it seems like his plate is so full. Why would he possibly be taking reservations for this program?
That's a good question. All these things are prototypes. We haven't done this before. And so Todd and I, with each reservation, with each, and they're each a little bit different, we're trying to figure out an equitable way to serve, to have different programs, different people that want to use the facility. How do we charge for it? And Todd's been really good about, we need to have a very clear process, and we already have base rates that we use to charge either nonprofit entities, outside groups that want to use our schools, because as you know, they're available through the Civil Use Act, Todd? Where
Civic Center Act.
Civic Center Act, thank you. Where an outside group like the Girl Scouts could say, we want to have a troop meeting at your school, and we'd say, okay, it's $25 an hour for a certain amount of time. We need a custodian to clean up after, or open and lock the building. So we're really trying to work with that, and how can we make this work? And the Ride Out facility is interesting because we've been paying for it for many years without anybody being there. So how do we kind of make it, we're not charging our kids that whole the overhead of the building, because we were already doing that, but then also try to make it sustainable at the same time. And Todd's been really good working on that with me. And so there haven't been many. I mean, really the only thing we have a reservation now for that we have dates on the calendar is that October date for our 6th graders. We have a lot of possibilities and a lot of people interested in things, but that's the only thing we have on the calendar at this point.
So kind of like what Trustee Nishimori was saying, it's evolving, it will continue to evolve.
And that's kind of why we haven't put it on the website yet, because we just want to make sure we have a clear process, and that working with our close partners really allows, we can adjust that, and make sure that things are equitable, or maybe we have to update different things, or overnight when you're using a classroom for 24 hours, but they're actually only sleeping there for 8 hours, but they're outside the rest of the day. So we have to kind of figure out how that works. So we're prototyping. That's why I like the word prototype, not pilot. Pilot kind of shows that you're going to do something and then maybe we won't do it. Prototyping, we need to do this. We want to do this for our kids. So we'll go through the challenges. We'll figure it out, and then as we decide, we'll together we'll make sure to put that out so everybody knows. But all the partners do know, we've said that many times in all of our meetings, that if they have an idea that they want to put forth, we're happy to entertain that and work for a solution.
And so, are you currently working with a certain budget? And if so, what is it? Or are you, as you go, finding the money from the district to fulfill the need?
That's a good question. We have a budget of $5,000, and we spent it. And
gritty.
But yes, we're working on it as we go, and working with our partners, fundraising. Something that TTUSD done in the past is ask parents to contribute towards trips. So Todd and I are working on a cost for that fall trip now. We just got everybody's proposals last Friday for the partners that are providing the services. Todd and I are taking that along with the utility and maintenance costs of the building and the overnights and things like that, and trying to figure out what is a cost. Is it $150 per kid? Is it $200 per kid? And then we'll share that with the school sites and parents as they start. And I was talking with Ms. Larson, and anywhere between 60 and 80% of the parents contribute towards the cost. But we understand our partners are not charging us their full rate too, and they have grant funding. Most of them, they're pretty aligned in the cost for the offering of services. So Todd and I are just going through that and making sure that things line up. And Todd deals with all the contracts too, so that's another important reason that we work with Todd.
Thank you. I'm excited to see where this goes. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thanks.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you guys very much. That was good.
Welcome.
Sorry, but
Thanks for listening.
Yep, that was awesome. Yay, thanks for speaking. Thanks for coming. All right, we're moving to a resolution, 12.0.
Yes, and we'll turn to Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. So tonight we're asking the board to consider resolution number 36, 2024-2025, to convey easements to Southwest Gas Corporation for Truckee Elementary, Truckee High School, the district office, Sells, Sierra High School, and the warehouse. And this is the second part of a process in conveying easements. Last board meeting, we brought what was called a resolution of intent to convey easements. That was just to make the public aware that we were considering these easements for Southwest Gas. The second part, of course, is approving the resolution to actually convey those easements, which is what we're doing tonight. But prior to that, we do need to open up a public hearing and take public comment on this.
Thank you for that. With that being said, I will close the Todd Truckee Unified School District Board meeting of June 25th, and I will open the, what am I opening? I'm opening the public hearing. Good Lord. Public, yeah, it's late. We're done. Public hearing? And is there any board or public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and at that point, we'll also close the public hearing and reopen our TTUSD board meeting with the motion on the table to either approve or make a comment.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 36, 2024, 25 to convey easements to Southwest Gas and approve the agreement for moving the gas meters.
Thank you.
I'll second
All
that.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. 13 donations, please, Superintendent Kramer.
Mrs. Roderick.
Thank you. The Shea McConkey Foundation is generously awarding Glenshire Elementary School $1,500 for second place in the Shea McConkey Eco Challenge in the Blue Square category. The Shea McConkey Eco Challenge inspires young people to become eco-challengers by learning about local environment issues, developing innovative solutions through critical thinking, and taking action for the planet. These dedicated participants are committed to creating tangible results, using research and data to support their problem identification and action plans. It is the staff's recommendation that the Board of Trustees accepts this generous award.
Thank you very much for that. Donation description, any comments from the board? Any?
No, just thank you to the McConkey Foundation and their continued support of our district.
Public comment? You're sitting there, I gotta ask. Okay, I would also like to say that, again, it's that same thing where we're environmentally conscientious, and I think we have huge partners everywhere we go. So thank you for that. I'll make a motion to accept the donation from the Shea McConkey Foundation.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda, please note the adjustment that we made with 14.10 moving out. Would anyone make any board decisions on any changes to that? Nope. Someone make a motion to approve the consent with the removal of 14.10.
I will make a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
I will second
All in
it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 16.0 personnel, Superintendent Kramer.
And for these items, we'll turn to our Executive Director of Human Resources, Mr. Michael Shepard.
Thank you, Superintendent Kramer, President Driller, members of the board. Bringing back to you tonight MOU number 5 with TTEA for your consideration, and this is in relation to the agreement we reached prior to fully release our high school athletic directors for next year. So with that, any questions?
Board questions on this? I'm assuming that if this is correct, that we are, my direction would be that we do not approve this MOU. Yes, so I would, only because we have, we've decided to stay in NI2A as of the previous item, and my vote would be that we do not approve this MOU.
I mean, my understanding was that we were doing this to provide the opportunity for them to work on the switch, and because we're not doing the switch, it's not necessary anymore. Yeah, so I would agree.
Ditto. Okay, all three. So thank you very much. We will decline that. All voted no. Moving to 17.0, first read board policies, Superintendent Kramer.
We're going to do 16.2. We pulled 1410 out. That's okay.
Wait, do we have to do a formal vote on that?
Did that count enough as the vote?
Yeah, we need a
Repeated?
formal vote.
A motion.
Oh, just by, okay.
We voted, I just said we all unanimous.
Yeah.
vote of no.
Okay.
The pulled item, when
Yep.
Mr. Shepard was going to provide information, and then you vote separately from
Okay.
consent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you talking about 16.1? She's checking on the MOU. Was that the MOU vote counting? They
I
all?
mean, dittos,
Oh,
does that
yes.
count like my official vote?
So you
saying
got it all?
ditto?
No. Okay.
I got it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
So 16.2 is a action item,
Yes.
and Mr. Shepard was going to say a few things about that.
Thank you. So we walked in tonight the revised job description for this. When we posted the job description on the agenda, we realized after the fact that we missed 3 bullet points. So we walked in copies for you and provided copies for the public. And on that second page, I believe, is the highlighted bullets that were not included in the original one. And so for that, I apologize. But this is a position, a management position for your consideration. And with that, do you have any questions?
Board, do we have any questions for Mr. Shepherd?
I do not.
Okay, seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. This is an action item, so would there be a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed revisions to the job description, program specialist, special education.
I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we'll move to 17.0, first read board policy. Superintendent Kramer.
Yes, and for these items, we will turn to our Executive Director of Student Services, Dr. Anne Marie Cohen.
Right. Thank you, Superintendent Kramer. Good evening, President Driller, Board of Trustees, and community. Tonight, I'm presenting the first read to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5144.1, suspension and expulsion due process. This policy is updated to reflect new law SB 274, which extends the prohibition from suspending a student for disruption for willful defiance, formally applicable to students in grades K through 8, to all students, with the prohibition being effective until July 1st, 2029. The second part prohibits a district from suspending or expelling a student solely on the fact that they are truant, tardy, or otherwise absent from school activities. Additionally, the policy is updated to clarify that no preschool student may be expelled or unenrolled. This is a first read and only, and will be brought back for approval at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Are there any questions?
There are some preschoolers that I might have wanted to. Any questions from the board? Seeing none and no comments from the public, I think we're okay to bring that back for a consent item. Thank you.
Dr. Cohen?
Thank you. This is a first read of proposed revision to Administrative Regulation 5144.2, suspension and expulsion due process for students with disabilities. This regulation is updated to clarify that the superintendent, chief learning officer, principal, or designee may suspend a student from school for up to 5 consecutive school days unless the suspension has been extended following a recommendation for expulsion. And a student may usually be suspended from school for up to 20 cumulative school days or 30 cumulative school days as permitted by Education Code 48903 in a school year. If the suspension constitutes a change of placement, a manifestation, determination, and procedural safeguards apply when the student is a student with a disability.
Board questions? Board comments? No public comment. Thank you for that. Moving to 17.3, we'll put 17.2 on the consent.
Dr. Cohen?
Okay, and this is a first read of proposed revision to Board Policy 5147, dropout prevention. This policy is updated to include parents, guardians, and school staff in collaborative efforts to develop strategies to support student attendance. New Law 153 allows the district to implement attendance recovery programs in order to make up lost instructional time and offset absences. In addition, the policy updated to expand the strategies to support students at risk of dropping out of school to include attendance recovery programs, expanded school and/or community support services, including student support personnel for case management and counseling, tracking student attendance and identifying students with attendance problems as early as possible, so the school may provide appropriate support services and interventions.
Thank you. Board comments? I'm assuming with this dropout prevention that it is for all the schools, but then we at our schools have like if you do drop out, we have like a net at Sierra High or Truckee River. So like this is just a prevention for each school site, even though we TTUSD are much better prepared because we have a secondary solution if you do drop out, or
Yeah, so the law is putting out that schools need to really set up more comprehensive programs to prevent dropout. And that is reflected in many of the activities that we have been adopting and engaged in. So for example, our attendance campaign that we have where we're tracking and monitoring student attendance. We have a new attendance liaison, community liaison, supporting the case management for students that have been referred to SARB.
Yep.
So we're making more comprehensive referrals to mental health supports and ensuring there's a broader net of supports for students at every at every school site, starting earlier and younger and intervening with attendance issues is part of what we need to do in order to help prevent dropout rates later on. So
our revisions are just minor adjustments. We're already doing stuff, but we're adding a few more things to it.
Yes,
Okay.
so these are policy updates that reflect the law, which is a little bit delayed. They're usually about a year.
Yep.
Behind.
No worries. Okay, with that, those are all info only, and then we'll put that back on consent on the next board meeting. Board comments?
I have nothing tonight.
Chris?
Just a quick report that Mr. Hilton, Superintendent Kramer, myself, and our past board clerk, Mr. Galen Larson, all met for a good hour and a half and just discussed what the district is currently doing in terms of AI. And then Mr. Larson and I just raised the component of let's talk about AI affected careers in our upper grades. So we'll figure out ways to bring that to the board, integrate that into our CCR classes and wherever else they are appropriate. So that was super exciting, and we will be doing some work kind of individually and over the next couple months and meeting again in September. So I'm excited that we have the conversation started. And I'm very grateful to Mr. Larson for joining us again and being part of this conversation.
Once a board member, you're always a board member.
Yes.
That is awesome. I do miss our Galen conversations. I also would like to just reiterate that Chris Hennessy, Clerk Hennessy, and Superintendent Kramer and I also met with a parent who was interested in what our tech the level of tech that is being offered to our students. And at that point, Superintendent Kramer had just come back from her charge at Rideout, and had, with the support of her entire team and the tech department, created a template that just sort of showed you what was available to our students, and then what we as a district have decided you are not allowed to use to keep better tabs on what's happening. So appreciate the fact that you are reaching out, Chris, for we talked about futuristic, how are we moving forward with the AI, and Ed, thanks for jumping in on that one. And then also, Mr. Hilton was with us because it was all about tech for that meeting with our parent. But just a reminder to parents that, we do want to hear from you, and we do take what you say seriously, and some of the things that come out of what you say are the same thing with our students, are catalysts for what we end up moving forward to. But a big shout out to our parent that did speak, and then just the quick response that we all had, which was good. We will not meet until end of July. Please hold all your comments till later. You guys, really appreciate all of you being here for this long. Thank you, Cabinet. I'm glad we had Michael speak. At one point, I thought for sure you were going to have nothing to say, and then it'd be a long meeting. But Superintendent Kramer, she's got it dialed so that everyone says something. With that, the meeting is adjourned at 8:15.